There's no doubt the mysterious warrior was a Sith.
Always two there are. No more, no less. A master and an apprentice.
But which was destroyed? The master or the apprentice?
The rule of two forbids more than a Sith master and a Sith apprentice. One to wield power and one to crave it. If the apprentice becomes sufficiently powerful, it is their duty to overthrow their master and embody the Sith teachings, while adopting a new apprentice. If the apprentice fails, they have proven themselves too weak to be deserving of their master title. Such has been the way of the Sith for a millennium. Despite this foundational rule, there are workarounds. Many times, wily Sith have been known to usurp their masters early, taking on a secret apprentice in advance of their own ascension. In other cases, however, both the master and apprentice deem it appropriate to imbue Force-sensitive servants with enough dark knowledge to make them not a Sith proper, but a Dark Acolyte. A simple servant, a tool to be used, with or not with their knowledge. They may be recruited from disenfranchised Jedi, or found from one of the many dark side cults of the galaxy. They are given some glimpse into the esoteric, given or made to construct and wield a lightsaber, and trained to use the dark side of the Force, but never truly intended to reach their apotheosis and ascension to Sith Lord.
You are listening to the Star Lords Podcast.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Are you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder?
But I was going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Confederacy of Independent Systems.
During the Clone Wars, Darth Sidious and his apprentice, Darth Tyrannus, publicly known as Count Dooku, moved to assemble a network of dark-side adepts to support the Confederacy's war against the Jedi. Known as Dark Acolytes, or dark-side apprentices, these individuals were Dark Jedi who entered the service of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Drawn into this orbit and instructed in Sith techniques, they nonetheless remained outside the Sith Order itself, constrained by the rule of two. Scattered throughout the Confederacy's military structure, the Acolytes filled roles shaped by their talents: assassins, spies, commanders, and enforcers operating in the shadows of the war effort. However, varied their assignments, all ultimately answered to Tyrannus and the Sith agenda behind the separatist cause. Few survived the conflict they helped sustain. One by one, most were consumed by the war, and in the end, Tyrannus himself fell during the Battle of Coruscant.
Recruitment.
You are more powerful than I had sensed.
The dark side is strong in me, for I am Sith.
A bold claim, but you are not Sith. You wear the trappings of the Sith, you fight like the Sith, but this can be imitated, however. You lack a vital quality found in all Sith. Sith have no fear, and I sense much fear in you.
You are a foolish old man who knows nothing of the dark side.
Induction into the ranks of the Dark Acolytes appears to have required little more than force sensitivity and willingness to serve. Acceptance, however, did not guarantee influence. Most recruits remained expendable operatives until they earned Tyrannus' confidence through obedience, effectiveness, or the rage of cruelty associated with the dark side. Those who proved themselves were entrusted with more significant assignments and, in some instances, exposed to aspects of Sith philosophy and training. Many were themselves former Jedi who had broken with the Order, disillusioned by what they viewed as the corruption and ineffectiveness of the Galactic Republic. Some aligned with the Separatist cause out of loyalty to Tyrannus personally, while others were drawn by the fascination with the dark side of the Force or the forbidden mystique of Sith lore, both quietly cultivated within the organization. In certain cases, Tyrannus personally identified Force-sensitive individuals, and, when they lacked formal training, instructed them himself. Though never recognized as true Sith, including lacking the names and title of Darth, select acolytes received limited instruction in Sith disciplines. Among the most notable was Asajj Ventress, who studied the Sith Quietech meditation under Tyrannus' guidance. Among the earliest recruits to what would become the Dark Acolytes was Sev'rance Tann, a blue-skinned Chiss female from the icy world of Scylla. Like most Chiss, Tann possessed glowing crimson eyes and sharp, refined features that gave her an almost unnervingly controlled appearance. A tactical prodigy, she was brought into Republic space alongside her lover, Vandalore, through the manipulations of Darth Sidious and subsequently trained by Darth Tyrannus himself. Her brilliance in warfare and repeated military successes earned her favor not only with both Sith Lords, but also among the Confederacy's senior leadership during the Battle of Geonosis. Tann was tasked with securing Tyrannus' escape route amid the chaos. Her efforts ensured the Dark Lord escaped the arena alive, preserving the Separatist command structure and allowing the Clone Wars to erupt across the galaxy. Some within Confederate circles later speculated that Tann had been entrusted with overall command of the droid armies during the battle. Rather than relegated to a support role, the outcome on Geonosis might have been dramatically different. The Battle of Geonosis also marked the appearance of the mysterious Dark Acolyte trio, 3 anonymous operatives whose identities and species remain unknown. Encased within heavily armored Sith Enforcer battle tanks, the Acolytes defended the ground-level approach to Tyrannus' private hangar. There they engaged Jedi Master Mace Windu in a desperate holding action. Though none survived the encounter, their sacrifice brought Tyrannus enough time to flee Geonosis and carry the war into its next phase. Following the battle, Tyrannus returned to his hidden stronghold on Bakura after meeting Darth Sidious on Coruscant. The fortress buried deep within the remote world had already been discovered by Jedi Masters Thulm and Sora Bulq. Bulq, a broad-shouldered Weequay, renowned as one of the Order's greatest swordsmen, fought beside Thulm in an attempt to eliminate the Sith Lord before the war could spread further. Tyrannus overpowered them both. He blasted Bulq unconscious with Force lightning and buried the stubborn Thulm beneath collapsing rubble. While Thulm struggled to survive, Tyrannus carried Bulq away and personally treated his injuries. Exploiting the Jedi Master's buried resentment and anger, Tyrannus slowly turned Bulq to the dark side. The fallen Jedi was then tasked with infiltrating the Jedi Order itself, returning to Coruscant as an apparent survivor and hero. Bulq used his renewed credibility to quietly sow division among the Jedi ranks from within. In the aftermath of Geonosis, several Jedi vanished before reassignment orders could reach them. Among them was Tal Skor, a former Jedi whose fate changed after pirates shot down his vessel over Korriban. Tyrannus rescued him from death, and Skor repaid the act with unwavering loyalty, following the Sith Lord into the Confederacy without hesitation. The circumstances surrounding Cadrian Say's defection were far less clear. The Jedi simply disappeared from Republic service and later resurfaced among Tyrannus' inner circle of Dark Acolytes. Roughly 2 months into the Clone Wars, Tyrannus traveled to the war-ravaged world of Ratatak in search of new talent. While observing combat within the infamous gladiatorial arena known as the Cauldron, the Dark Lord's local host was abruptly killed and replaced by the cloaked figure of Asajj Ventress. Bald, pale-skinned, and cold-eyed, the Dathomirian warrior concealed her force presence so effectively that even Tyrannus acknowledged her skill. He remarked, however, that he had not come seeking a spy. Ventress answered by leaping into the arena itself. There, surrounded by hardened gladiators and killers, she unleashed a display of ruthlessness, slaughtering every opponent sent against her. Tyrannus admired the spectacle, but amusement quickly replaced approval when Ventress arrogantly declared herself a Sith. Drifting down into the arena, Tyrannus calmly informed her that while she wielded Sith weapons and imitated Sith methods, she was still consumed by fear, a weakness no true Sith could afford. Ventress attacked immediately. Tyrannus crushed the assault with a blast of Force lightning, leaving her unconscious. She later awoke within an immense penthouse, loft carved directly into the jagged rock formations of Ratatak, apparently one of Tyrannus' private residences. No sooner had she recovered her lightsabers than Tyrannus struck again, launching into a relentless duel that tore across the chamber. Though Ventress astonished both Tyrannus and Darth Sidious, the later observing through hologram transmission, with her aggression and technical skill, she was eventually overwhelmed. Her lightsabers were shattered, and she awaited execution. Instead, Tyrannus offered her a place within the Confederacy. She was granted a new pair of curved-hilt lightsabers and inducted into the growing ranks of the Dark Acolytes. Sidious himself issued her first standing order: locate and eliminate the Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker. At roughly the same time, Tyrannus also sought allies among other dark side factions. On the world of Susethi, he approached the Dark Jedi Nikos Tyrus and his Gensare followers Tyrus and Anzadi, a gaunt near-human predator species infamous for feeding upon the life essence of sentient beings, was promised access to an ancient Sith holocron in exchange for his allegiance and service to the Confederacy.
Tools of war.
As enforcers acting in service of Count Dooku and the broader will of the Order of the Sith Lords, the Dark Acolytes operated within a framework shaped by Sith doctrine and separatist military necessity. Their equipment often reflected that influence, blending standardized Confederacy armaments with Sith-aligned design principles. All Acolytes were issued red synthetic crystals for their lightsabers, a visual and symbolic alignment with Sith tradition. Most adopted them without reservation. In at least one documented case, Quinlan Vos received a crystal previously associated with Darth and Dedu, underscoring Tyrannus' selective distribution of Sith relics and influence. However, not all abandoned their past entirely. Some retained Ilum-sourced crystals carried over from their time with the Jedi Order, particularly those operating in long-term infiltration roles. Beyond these issued materials, operational equipment varied according to assignment. Those who fought openly within the ranks of the Confederacy often adopted protective armor suited to frontline engagement, as seen with figures such as Savage Opress and Tull Score. In contrast, covert operatives prioritized mobility and concealment. Asajj Ventress favored modified Celestin leather jumpsuits paired with long combat skirts designed for agility and stealth operations. Even within the same framework, traces of individuality remained. Sora Bulq notably continued to wear his Jedi robes after his expulsion from the Order, distinguishing himself only through the adoption of standard red lightsaber crystals rather than outward changes in appearance. Among the most distinctive assets assigned to them were the Sith Enforcer battle tanks, armored vehicles deployed for rapid concentrated strikes. Each one was equipped with twin supercharged blaster cannons and dual missile launchers, allowing for sustained offensive pressure in direct engagements. Despite their effectiveness in isolated combat scenarios, Darth Tyrannus mandated their use in coordinated groups of 3, emphasizing synchronized assaults over individual deployment.
Teachings.
You are more powerful than I had sensed.
The dark side is strong in me, for I am Sith.
A bold claim, but you are not Sith.
A Dark Acolyte operated with little in the way of formal doctrine, unified more by opposition than by shared philosophical structure. For many, their allegiance to the Confederacy of Independent Systems was driven by rejection of the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order, particularly among former Jedi who had grown disillusioned with its bureaucracy, corruption, and inertia. In this framing, Quinlan Vos observed that their actions could be interpreted as an extension of Jedi ideals, insofar as they sought to dismantle corruption rather than accumulate power for its own sake. Despite this, their outlook was heavily shaped by Sith influence through their association with Count Dooku and the broader teachings of Sith philosophy. Exposure to the dark side of the Force was both deliberate and sustained, reinforcing tendencies already present in many recruits. During his interactions with Jedi leadership, Tyrannus argued that the dark side was not an external corruption, but an intrinsic aspect of all living beings, and therefore a force that could be acknowledged and utilized rather than denied. In separate exchanges with Vos, he further contended that Jedi restraint stemmed from fear, and that mastery of the dark side could be used to address perceived injustices with the galaxy. Such interpretations, however, reflected Sith doctrine rather than a unified acolyte ideology. The Dark Acolytes, as a whole, did not adhere to a consistent moral framework, and their motivations varied widely across individuals. Some displayed extreme cruelty and moral disengagement, justified through necessity or ideology only in passing. Others adopted more utilitarian views of power, exemplified by figures such as Nikos Tyrist, who argued that strength itself removed the need for justification, an outlook aligned closely with Sith principles rather than any shared ethic.
The Acolytes.
Lord Tyrannus,
My master.
there is a disturbance in the Force. Your assassin, she has become very powerful.
Yes, my lord. She is quite important to me.
Too important.
Master.
Silence! I can sense her powers growing stronger. I would hate to think you are training your own Sith apprentice to destroy me.
Never. My allegiance is to you and you alone.
Then you must prove it. Eliminate her.
She's my most trusted. I said, eliminate her! As you wish, my lord.
Artel Dark commanded Confederate legions on Dagu, a campaign marked by the brutal subjugation of the native Rybet species. The Rybet, amphibious humanoids adapted to Dagu's harsh environment, were forced into slavery under Dark's rule. His actions eventually drew the attention of the Republic, and a strike force led by Jedi Master Shaak Ti descended on the world. In the fighting that followed, Dark personally directed Confederate forces against the Republic assault.
Among Darth Tyrannus' Dark Acolytes, Asajj Ventress stood apart as the most feared and visible. A pale-skinned Dathomirian female with piercing eyes and shaved head. Ventress had once been sold into slavery by Ratataki traffickers before rising to power as a ruthless warlord on the scarred, blood-soaked world of Ratatak. Weeks after the outbreak of the Clone Wars, Tyrannus arrived on the planet, where Ventress challenged him directly. Though decisively defeated, her ferocity and mastery of the lightsaber impressed the Sith Lord. As one of Tyrannus' chief lieutenants, Ventress became both commander and assassin, leading campaigns on worlds such as Oma Du'un and Teth, often alongside the towering Jedi mercenary Dirge. She also oversaw strategic assets like the swamp gas facilities on Quetta, though espionage and assassin remained her true specialties.
The so-called Dark Acolyte trio remained anonymous even within separatist circles. Their species and identities were never recorded. During the Battle of Geonosis, the three guarded the ground entrance to Tyrannus' private hangar, piloting heavy armored Sith Enforcer battle tanks to cover the Dark Lord's escape. They clashed with Jedi Master Mace Windu and were ultimately killed, but not before buying Tyrannus the time he needed to flee.
Equally mysterious were the replicas of Darth Tyrannus himself. Whether crude cloning experiments or manifestations born through the dark side of the Force was never determined. These duplicates lacked the gravitas of the real Count, serving mostly utilitarian purposes. One guarded Foreman Wat Tambor's Cartosis battle droid factory on Metalorn, while another remained stationed on Sereno, Tyrannus' aristocratic homeworld. Both were eventually destroyed by the Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker, who would later execute the true Darth Tyrannus during the Battle of Coruscant.
When the Clone Wars erupted, the Jedi Cadron Say vanished from Republic records, failing to return to Coruscant after Geonosis. Say, one of Tyrannus' earliest recruits, became a personal bodyguard to the Sith Lord alongside Tol Skor. Little is known of Say's appearance, though her reputation suggested a disciplined and dangerous warrior. Tyrannus deliberately fostered rivalry between her and Skor, ensuring constant tension between the two, though they would still unite instantly against any threat to their standing.
Karak and his twin brother Vinok occupied the lower ranks of Tyrannus' service. Their species was never identified, though the twins operated with near identical precision and were rarely seen apart. Assigned the mundane duty of guarding the CB-3 Cartosis battle droid factory on Metalorn, they proved hopelessly outmatched when confronted by Anakin Skywalker. Both brothers died in the ensuing duel.
Kurn was a male Zabrak, recognizable by the species' crown of horns and harsh angular features. Armed with a red double-bladed lightsaber, he joined fellow acolyte Roar in leading the assault on Kashyyyk, where their forces sought to destroy a Jedi outpost and capture Jedi Master Mavra Zane, along with her Padawans. Kurn later resurfaced on Felucia during an attempted execution of the prisoners, but the Jedi escaped with aid from Yoda and the Star Runner. In the battle that followed, Kurn was killed by one of Zane's Padawans.
Jedi Master Quinlan Vos infiltrated the Dark Acolytes at the Jedi Council's request, posing as a fallen Jedi seeking power. Vos, a Kifar identifiable by the dark facial markings that traced across his skin, was initially accepted, but given only trivial assignments due to Tyrannus' distrust. Frustrated, Vos confronted the Sith Lord directly and was rewarded with renewed favor and instruction in the dark side itself. During a mission to K'Fu, Vos exposed his role as a double agent while attempting to save his aunt, Shaif Tinte Vos, after Tyrannus ordered her death. Tyrannus then revealed he had known the truth from the beginning, along with Tinte's involvement in the murder of Quinlan's parents. Enraged beyond reason, Vos slaughtered his aunt himself, fully embracing the dark side and earning complete acceptance among the Acolytes.
Roar, like Kern, was a male Zabrak wielding a red double-bladed lightsaber. He fought alongside Trandoshan allies during the assault on Kashyyyk in the war's opening year. Later on Felucia, during the rebellion surrounding Mavrazane's escape, Roar too was slain by one of the Jedi Master's Padawans.
Sato was a Dathomirian witch drawn unwillingly into Tyrannus' service. Though entrusted with limited military authority, her talents lay in counterintelligence and covert operations. She captured Republic spy Rala Ponkar on Tatooine and enlisted the notorious bounty hunter Ara Singh to aid in trapping Anakin Skywalker when he attempted a rescue. Sato pursued Skywalker to the Great Pit of Carkoon after the pair escaped, but she was ultimately defeated and killed in a lightsaber duel.
Asajj Opress was effectively recruited to replace Ventress after Darth Sidious ordered her death. A massive, heavily muscled Zabrak from Dathomir's Night Brother clans, Opress was transformed through Night Sister shadow magic, his already imposing physique enhanced into something monstrous. Though presented to Tyrannus as a loyal new apprentice, he was secretly intended as Ventress's instrument of revenge. Opress first proved himself during the seizure of the Temple of Edit on Deveron, carrying out the mission with savage efficiency. Impressed, Tyrannus began training him as a genuine Sith apprentice, envisioning the possibility that together they might one day rival Sidious himself.
Sev'rance Tann was a blue-skinned Chiss female from Chilla in the unknown regions, her glowing red eyes and cold precision marking her unmistakably as one of her species. Leaving Chiss space alongside her lover Vandalore, she entered the service of Darth Sidious and Darth Tyrannus shortly before the Clone Wars. Under Tyrannus' guidance, Tann learned to wield the dark side and quickly establish herself as one of the Confederacy's most brilliant military strategists, serving primarily as a battlefield commander.
Jedi Master Sora Bulq, believed dead after Geonosis, resurfaced on Bakura beside Jedi Master Thom. There, they confronted Tyrannus, who had only recently escaped a duel with Yoda. Despite their skill, both Jedi were overwhelmed. Tyrannus treated Bulq's injuries and gradually seduced him to the dark side, recruiting him into the Dark Acolytes. Bulq later returned to the Jedi Temple as a covert operative tasked with creating division within the Order itself. Though exposed by Mace Windu, his failure as a spy elevated him openly within the Acolytes, where he became one of Tyrannus' most trusted agents and eventually the organization's secondary leader.
Tol Skor, a former Jedi, owed his life to Tyrannus after pirates shot him down above Korriban. Rescued and reshaped by the Sith Lord, Skor abandoned the Jedi Order entirely out of fierce loyalty. Little is recorded of his physical appearance, but his reputation was that of a relentless and disciplined enforcer. Alongside Cadrian Say, he served as one of Tyrannus' personal bodyguards, their rivalry carefully cultivated by the Dark Lord. After Say's death, Skor's animosity shifted toward Quinlan Vos, as both men competed for Tyrannus' approval.
The Dark Acolyte Trenix emerged during the Coruscant insurrection, helping Tyrannus direct Confederate operations across the city world. Pursued through the underlevels by Anakin Skywalker, Trennick repeatedly fled confrontation, even threatening the Basilisk diner owned Dexter Jetster before escaping on a speeder bike. He later accompanied Tyrannus into the Jedi Temple itself, where Skywalker confronted him in one final time. Unlike before, Trennick chose to stand and fight, but was ultimately cut down in the duel.
Vinoc, twin brother to Karok, shared his siblings' low standing among the Dark Acolytes. The pair operated almost exclusively together, guarding the Metalorn Cortosis factory until Skywalker confronted them. Vinoc died beside his brother in the ensuing lightsaber battle.
Lasting legacy.
The existence of the Dark Acolytes served a purpose far greater than battlefield utility. To Darth Sidious, they were instruments of political corrosion. By openly employing Force-sensitive agents within the Confederacy of Independent Systems, many of them former Jedi, Sidious carefully undermined public faith in the Jedi Order itself. Across the Republic, fear and suspicion spread as citizens began to question whether the Jedi could still be trusted, or whether any knight might secretly turn traitor at any moment. When Sidious finally revealed himself as Emperor and enacted Order 66, he exploited those fears completely. Publicly, he claimed that Darth Tyrannus had never truly abandoned the Jedi Order and had instead orchestrated the Clone Wars as part of a Jedi conspiracy to seize power. In one stroke, Sidious shifted blame for the war, and for his own atrocities, onto the Jedi themselves. Within that narrative, the Dark Acolytes were almost certainly recast as rogue Jedi operatives rather than servants of the Sith. The consequences of this manipulation extended well beyond the fall of the Republic. During the Clone Wars, Sidious, acting publicly as Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, assigned Republic officer Tracta to investigate and apprehend Jedi defectors who had joined the Separatists. Tracta was severely wounded during those operations, injuries that left much of his body heavily reconstructed and likely deepened his hatred of Force users altogether. By the Imperial era, that resentment had hardened into ideology. Tracta later became involved in an attempted coup against the Galactic Empire, convinced that no galactic government should ever remain in the hands of Force-sensitive elites, whether Jedi Knights or Sith Lords. Several captured Force-sensitive Separatists survived the war only to disappear into the Prism, a remote and highly secretive prison built to contain dangerous dark-side adepts. Even after the Clone Wars ended, many of these prisoners remained alive in confinement until the events of the Ghost Prison incident. Darth Vader, accompanied by Moff Tracta and Lieutenant Larisha Tom, later traveled to the facility. There, Tracta finally exacted personal revenge by killing a Dark Jedi Padawan responsible for the injuries he had sustained during the war. Another prisoner, Nax Sirvan, a surviving Force-sensitive Separatist associated with the Dark Acolytes, was temporarily offered freedom by Vader in exchange for assistance suppressing a conspiracy led by Headmaster Gentis of the Imperial Academy. Sirvan complied, aiding Vader against the insurgents, but the arrangement was never genuine. True to Sith custom, Vader ultimately betrayed Sirvan and other liberated prisoners alike, sabotaging their transport so it would explode after departure. Yet perhaps the Dark Acolyte's most endearing legacy emerged through survival. After the death of Nikos Tyrus and the destruction of his training enclave by the Jedi, only 4 of his Jensari disciples escaped alive. Those survivors rebuilt the Jensari Order in secret. Though deeply shaped by Sith teachings and traditions inherited from Tyrus, the new Jensari rejected the dark side, instead attempting to balance martial discipline and Force study through their own interpretation of the light side. For decades, they viewed the Jedi Order with suspicion and fear, believing the Jedi were responsible for the destruction of their people. Over time, however, relations softened. During the era of Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order, the Jensari were approached peacefully and eventually reconciled with Jedi they had once regarded as enemies. On a smaller but no less unsettling note, Asajj Ventress achieved near-mythic status on the world of Mach. Among portions of the local population, the pale Dathomirian assassin was revered as a literal goddess of death, with ritual sacrifices carried out in her name long after her departure from the planet. Welcome aboard the Millennial Falcon. This is Christian.
And this is Jordan.
We're currently on the planet of Mok, a unsettling world. Just want to see if they will practice these sacrifices to their goddess, Asajj Ventress.
Yeah, I hope they start with you, and I'll run.
All right.
But before we get into all manner of sacrifices, let's do some housekeeping. If you want to become a member of the show, a supporting listener, get access to all the bonus content, go to patreon.com/starlores. And for $3 USDs a month, you can get access to that. And the $5 night tier also gets you access to ad-free episodes because ads are annoying. So make sure you go and do that. Yeah, other than that, make sure to reach out to us. You can email us with any questions, concerns. You can email Christian at his personal email. No, just kidding. You can email us at starlorespodcast@gmail.com. And for any mailbag questions, I'm trying to get people to go to the email rather than DMs or even comments. It's hard to organize all that. Yeah. So it's best to go just to the email if you can. Other than that, we also accept Bitcoin, PayPal, that kind of thing. Go to subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on all our social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter /X, and we're on Discord as well. Yeah, and if you can't support monetarily, by all means, go give us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can definitely help out the show that way as well. And did I mention we were on YouTube? Yeah, go subscribe on YouTube.
Trying to grow that YouTube audience.
Trying to get the YouTube algos going. Yeah, other than that, let's get into it, Christian.
Dark Side Acolytes, Sith Acolytes. Very cool concept. They are quite old as a concept. The first one appeared in 1998 with Nikos Tyrus in I, Jedi. But
a few things appeared in I, Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a few concepts that ended up getting fleshed out later on.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to comment is that even though this idea of a Sith Acolyte was created, it wasn't really it was retroactively connected to Darth Tyrannus and this group of Sith Acolytes. I suppose it should be fair to say that the title or role or rank of an Acolyte is somewhat universal. In this case, we're talking obviously about a very select group of acolytes working under Darth Tyrannus during the Clone Wars. But it should be noted that Sith acolytes have existed throughout history, and they kind of occupy a place in the Sith orders either before the Rule of Two, where you had massive Sith armies, so you could have multiple Sith lords and their followers. But also during the Rule of Two, it's kind of a workaround of having an apprentice, kind of like what we mentioned in the episode, that, okay, officially there are only two of us, but we can also outsource a lot of stuff to lesser force users. We'll get more to that in a sec. But
now, just so people might get confused with terms, there's also the broad category of Dark Jedi.
Yeah.
Who are also not Sith, but would a Sith acolyte fall under the rubric of a Dark Jedi?
A Dark Jedi can be an acolyte, but not all acolytes are Dark Jedi.
Okay.
Even within this cluster of acolytes, some of them were former Jedi that have fallen and become Dark Jedi, and others were completely recruited specifically for the purpose of becoming acolytes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think one can be a subcategory of the other, but not necessarily interchangeable.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In terms.
Good clarification.
Yeah. And then Asajj Ventress is also just an interesting. She's gotten way more than enough info on her to justify her own episode. And a number of these people actually do. But
but before we get into the actual characters, I did want to bring up one more thing. And I am currently literally going through the book Rule of Two.
Okay. Great timing.
Yeah. Which is somewhat prescient to this. But I do wonder if this is kind of a deviation from Bane's doctrines, in that it sort of feels almost like a workaround, we're not violating the rule of two per se.
Yeah.
But we're finding this sort of loophole where we can still have like an army of Sith users, but not actually be Sith lords, if you will. And that seems like it seemed like a dangerous game only simply because of Bane's own, his concept is basically that if you allow too many, they're all going to compete for power.
Yeah. And in total dilute and destroy what you're trying to build. Yeah.
So I do wonder if this like violates that a little bit, which is fine if they do. But
I mean, the Sith aren't really known for following rules.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say yes. It is certainly a workaround, like a very legalistic. I think if you had asked Darth Bane, he would say, "No, don't do that."
Yeah.
But I think for anyone like a Sith purist, let's say, but I think if you look at what acolytes are used for and what their roles are, and I was gonna kind of dive into this a little more deeply, is I wonder if acolytes themselves know, like they appear more like a usable tool, than they're never intended to become Sith Lords. It's not that I'm ever going to share power with you. Yes. You're my minion.
Yeah.
And you can only ever aim to go so high. Now, you do have exceptions. One in particular, Asajj Opress, which, for the record, I do hate that name. But I will, every time I say it, I cringe. But in his case, like, it turns out he was actually powerful enough.
Can't you thank Filoni for that?
Yes. There's a lot of awful names, but I save that for another episode.
Okay.
But in any case, in his case, he Tyrannus kind of sees an opportunity in him that, like, okay, maybe he's actually strong enough. He might be worth actually elevating to my own Sith apprentice and use him to overthrow Darth Sidious. Darth Vader almost has a similar encounter with Galen Merrick as well, where it's like, and Sidious kind of flips it around, is like, no, it was always a plan to dispose of you. But I do wonder if like Vader at some point thought, maybe this guy is strong enough and the two of us could take down Sidious together.
Yeah. Well, even, and I mean, in the EU material, we see things like the Emperor's Hand, like Mara Jade, and she almost seems very much like an acolyte figure. Like she's not, he doesn't seem like he's intending to make her like his apprentice.
Yeah.
She's just a tool to be used very similarly to the acolytes.
Yeah, and the Inquisitors as well kind of fulfill that exact same role too as these acolytes. And again, it's the fact that like they're not intended to ever become Sith Lords.
Yeah.
I'm never going to reveal all the Sith secrets to you. I'm only going to give you enough information to be a usable tool.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm the CEO of the company. I'm only going to let you in enough of the trade secret that you can work how I need you to work, but I'm never going to reveal all the secrets of the company to you, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of how I think it operates. So in that sense, the spirit of the rule of two is intact.
Yes.
Where it's you, your actual apprentice, and then this horde of followers. Now, my question is, do those acolytes understand this? Right. Are they given the promise of like, one day you two will be a powerful Sith Lord? Or are they... For the ones that we have, at least in Dooku's circle, it seems that most of them are just jilted and disillusioned, either former Jedi or like people in bad circumstances who only have like spite and revenge.
Yeah.
And they're not really looking for power to rule. They're just looking to destroy or like have a vendetta against a Jedi, like a former Jedi.
Yeah.
So in those cases, I don't think they have aspirations to become Sith Lords themselves. It's just a means to an end for them as well, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Ventress ever thought she might become a Sith Lord, or Sora Bulq ever thought he would become a Sith Lord. And the reverse of that is maybe they were, and Tyrannus lied to them and told them, like, yeah, you do this for me, and one day I will reveal the Sith secrets. So you're never really intending to do that, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so my kind of take on it, this whole thing is, I do actually think this is not in compliance with Bane's rule of two doctrine. I do actually think that. However, I don't think it's wrong to have it in the story, only because if you think of any religious order, if you look at them like 1,000 years apart, like in this, they're not exactly the same, right?
They're deviations.
Yeah, they deviate and they take former concepts and evolve them. So it actually,
or twist them.
Yeah, or twist them. Like that is a very common thing to happen. So I actually don't even hate it. I actually kind of like it that they deviate from it. It just in terms of the story, because it shows that the world is actually evolving over
time
time as things change, right? And the universe and even the ideology is evolving, which it feels very realistic to me. Like there's something, yes, that is something that happens.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings. It leads to some cool characters and some throwaway characters. And
sure.
Ultimately, I think as a function of the story, like kind of stepping out of universe, I think a lot of them just end up becoming lightsaber wielding villains. So you could have a lightsaber battle in your particular video game or your story, and that they can be killed without messing up the main line, right? Like you can't kill Dooku in your video game because obviously he's a main character that needs to be saved for the mainline story. So it just gives authors like a cool villain that they can kind of have for themselves. So like functionally, I see kind of how they come up, and the same idea with the Inquisitors, and exactly same with the Emperor's Hands, right? Like just cool. We want more lightsaber battles, but we can't kill Darth Vader in every comic book, so we need some side villains, right? So for that side of it, I don't like it only because it kind of creates a cheapness to
becomes a trope a little bit.
Yeah. And it does.
That's true.
It does kind of like distract from like it's that same thing, like oversaturation of a cool concept, right? Like if Boba Fett appears in every side story and it kind of dilutes the character.
Yeah, that's true.
So instead of saving these lightsaber duels for like really impactful key moments, it just becomes like, oh, another thing that happens, which I think is a complaint I have of the current Disney product is like lightsaber battles have become very meaningless. It's just something cool that can flash on screen and oh, that's Star Wars, right?
Sure.
Whereas in like the mainline series, like when two people pull out a lightsaber, like it's a serious like monumental event, right? It's the crescendo of Empire Strikes Back. It's the end of Return of the Jedi. It's the big duel at the end of the Phantom Menace and Episode 3.
There's something to be said about pace and space, right?
Right,
like,
exactly.
Yeah. I will say, I think that is one thing that The Mandalorian does actually quite well is that
avoiding the lightsaber.
Jedis are kind of rare,
yeah.
And actually, from in universe perspective, the average person never encounters a Jedi. It's almost like a rumor.
If you take the population and like divide it by the number of Force wielders that are
that's
out
right.
there, like it's a very small number that ever really interact with them.
Yeah, and you kind of feel that. I do like that they
keep a sense of wonder.
They had that in The Mandalorian itself, that like Jedis were almost more like a rumor, like these people that use the Force. Yeah, I do like that because that I think when you're watching all the movies and stuff, you don't get that sense, but that is actually in the lore. That's
how most of the galaxy.
Yeah,
would
it's
feel.
in the EU lore and it's even in the Disney lore. So I think that's kind of a cool thing that they do on screen. Whereas I hear what you're saying. In a lot of the movies, it feels like there's only Jedi everywhere
because of the main characters you're following. So yes, of course. Now, counter to everything I just said, it is also really cool. Like I love when a bunch of lightsabers go off and like it's a battle. Really big fan of the Knights of the Old Republic MMO.
Yeah, the Old Republic.
Yeah, and those cinematics are like, they are what Star Wars should have been for the last 10 years.
Totally.
And there you have like full armies of Sith and Jedi lightsabers out, all dueling all together. Like to me, that's 10 out of 10. Peak. That being said, I still, I don't know if I stand by what I said just a few minutes ago, but I'm just trying to give all the perspectives. At least I have mixed feelings is what I'm trying to get at.
Fair enough. Now let's get into. I interrupted you from Asajj Ventress earlier on. Did you want to?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna
extrapolate any more on her.
Yeah, just briefly mention that she was actually, and this happens a lot in Star Wars too, was concept art, I believe, for either Darth Maul or Count Dooku as like the next Sith villain. And if you look in the old Episode 2 art book and Episode 1 art books, there's concepts of her that get kind of used when she actually comes out as a full character. And she was really revealed as part of the Clone Wars project, so she obviously doesn't appear in any of the movies or anything, but she's a fairly prominent character in the comic books and the animated Clone Wars, both, I guess, this series, the original Tarkovsky version and then the subsequent one. But I just wanted to mention that like this is also a recurring thing with Star Wars, is where they will often go, and it's happened a lot more recently, where they'll literally recycle designs from the concept art and then actually make it as part of the universe as well. It's almost enough. I think we could almost do a whole episode on that, although that might be hard to do in the audio format.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll save that for special video special or something, but
video special. Yeah.
Just something I wanted to point to briefly. Real quick, last thing I just kind of want to discuss is Acolyte power levels. You do really have a mixed bag when it comes to Acolytes, depending on like the individual characters. Like I said, a lot of them kind of occupy that like throwaway villain, like your weekly villain of the week kind of format. However, typically I'm both in Tyrannus' circle, I'll say, and also I'm gearing this more towards older Sith formations. Acolytes tend to be a lot more powerful than they appear. And despite what the rank might suggest. So like oftentimes you see like, okay, you have your Sith Lord, he's very powerful. His apprentice is more powerful than say like a Jedi Padawan. And even a Sith apprentice could like challenge a Jedi Knight. Like Darth Maul took on a Jedi Master and a Jedi Apprentice almost single-handedly.
Yeah.
And really it was probably his arrogance. Like he probably could have killed both of them. And then the Acolytes as well. They tend to hold their own quite well against other Jedi of various ranks. So I just wanted to kind of like highlight, even though they occupy this role of villain of the week, individually, they can go toe-to-toe with like Jedi Masters and Jedi Knights quite consistently. Like even Ventress, she's just a Sith assassin.
Yeah, sure.
I shouldn't even call her a Sith. But she's just an assassin. And she can, at the very least, if she doesn't win, she often kind of like holds her own against Jedi like Anakin and Obi-Wan quite consistently. Which is to say, like a lot of their power scaling, Savage Opress is another one, right? Like even the lowest ranking Sith tend to be quite powerful because there are so few. So even kind of speaking to that rule of two philosophy where you have like, okay, there are less of us, but each one of us, even our smallest ranked people, are significant challenges to most other Jedi. Now, of course, you always have Jedi on the other side of that spectrum who are just ultra powerful themselves. I also want to point out briefly that Jedi aren't always necessarily masters because of their combat prowess either. A lot of times it just could be like wisdom and other factors that won't necessarily apply in a duel.
Yeah, I mean, even on the dark side, I don't necessarily see, Sidious as a master lightsaber duelist,
Oh, but he is.
Well, he is, but okay, he has the fight with Yoda.
Yeah.
But is even Yoda like a master lightsaber duelist?
He is, yeah. Mace Windu also.
But Mace Windu is like considered the best duelist.
Yes, but Sidious kills 4 Jedi Masters in like the blink of an eye and then duels.
But the way he kills Mace Windu isn't...
Sure, but that's the thing. Like Windu is the best, and they still kind of duel almost to a standstill with Sidious at a disadvantage. And then you also got to factor in like how much of that. This is actually an ongoing debate of whether or not Sidious allowed that situation to unfold in order to convert Anakin fully. I don't think he did necessarily. I think he took advantage of a bad situation he was in. But it does speak to Sidious's power level. Actually, I know a lot of people are unimpressed with the showing of it. But
I don't know. I'd have to go maybe read it.
If you include the Clone Wars as well, the comic series, or not the comic series, the animated
show.
Sidious is able to like easily wipe the floor with Darth Maul and Savage Opress at the same time
in a lightsaber duel.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know if I like that, but I like more his strength being his cunning and his his politicking and stuff like that.
Sure, there can be an argument to be made that like he doesn't need to be the best at everything. It takes away from the emphasis on his other talents. I just think the lore is what it is.
Okay. But in any case,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. In any case, there are like, back to the original point, like you don't necessarily have to be the best
warrior.
Yeah, best
or like
this or that. Yeah. And I mean, probably Darth Vader, like not Anakin, but Darth Vader probably wasn't the greatest duelist just because he was like encumbered by his own suit, right? Like,
keep walking on these landmines.
No, no, it's true. We've talked about this in the Darth Vader episode that he Darth Vader versus let's say Anakin comes from the past and lightsaber duels Darth Vader.
I would argue if Anakin not necessarily came from the past, but was at the same time as Darth Vader and was allowed to maybe train more, might be
also no. Let me make this case also.
Okay.
The other thing is Darth Vader lost in a lightsaber battle to Luke Skywalker. Not just once, but if you consider this canon is Splinter of the Mind's Eye, like when Luke is even weaker in that one, he like basically more or less defeats Darth Vader in a lightsaber duel. Again,
Luke is a bad example because he is also high, like a very powerful person. I will grant you that Darth Vader is weaker than Anakin would have otherwise been. But certainly he wasn't weak.
I'm not saying weak.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, is he going to be the top tier lightsaber duelist? I disagree with that.
I can't think of anyone that could beat him other than
Luke Skywalker.
I said other than let me finish my thought.
Weak Luke Skywalker.
I think other than Luke Skywalker. And even then, technically, only because he gave into his rage into the dark side. So I'll leave a caveat for that. But.
Okay. Well, we'll agree to disagree here.
Tell us what you guys think.
Yeah, tell us what you think.
Am I clearly right, or is Jordan also wrong? Those are your only two.
Yeah. Hey, you have a right to my own opinion, okay? Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add there.
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
All right. Yeah, make sure, guys, go check us out on YouTube again. Make sure to rate and review the show, share the show, follow us on social medias. All the links will be in the description, and reach out to us. We want to hear from you. So we'll see you next time.